How's everyone doing today? How many people? We got 4 people in the room. That's not bad. It's about average, right? It's how we usually start, and then we pick up to about 15. As you can see, I'm still kind of set up my camp. Um, I'm still here on Bander Island. I think it's Bander Island. It's within the park area. I decided to kind of rest up because just because that 40 kilometers, I didn't know it was 40 kilometers all uphill. So until Flea um, informed me in the telegram, he sent me like a another cyclist that do it. They're doing it on street bike, like a 10-speed style road bike. I mean, and yeah, they covered quite a bit of distance. So I mean that's yeah, that was 40 kilometers all up. I took it in 2 sections, 20 then 20. No wonder that hill never seemed to quit. But from this point on, I actually only have 10 kilometers uphill from what it looks like. So before I hit a downhill. So the next town is Garrick. It's 45 kilometers away. I met a guy here yesterday. I have the video already, guys. All I had to do is flip the switch. I did the thumbnail and the title and everything last night. The thumbnail is supposed to be humorous when you guys see it. It's just like just kind of a nonchalant joke I said one of my videos the other day, and it seemed like a few people laughed about it, so I just continued on with the joke by making a thumbnail out of my joke with the whole Republican thing. Uh, anyway, um, okay, let's see. Who's? I'm sorry, I didn't check the chat room. Let's see. Good morning, y'all. Good morning, Flea. Good morning, Planet Doug. Hope you had a good night in the jungle, Daniel. And with cell signal, good enough for uploading videos. Yeah. It almost freaked me out last night, Flea. So what happened was I was watching the time, right? Because of I had 10 hours before my data ran out, right? I want to stretch it as close as possible because they credit you for how many gigs you still have left over. So I'm like at 5,000 gigs. I could just leave this live streaming, strap it to my hand. Well, I don't have the right handlebars for it. Otherwise I would. Um, uh, so 5,000 gigabytes. Let me get back to that subject. I have an idea of how to actually how to eat up some of that time. Um, but as I'm editing, I'm like, okay, so I need to at least get read another data package by midnight, right? Otherwise, my time will expire at midnight, right? But I did a real quick rough guesstimate because I'm lucky because when I looked, I was editing, I look, and it's 11:57. I'm like, oh no. And so I'm pressed for 3 minutes, right? I'm like, I hope nothing goes wrong, like the app's having a hard time opening or something like that. So yeah, I got the data plans installed within 1 minute of the deadline. But luckily, it was just a rough guesstimate, so I think I still actually had a few minutes on top of that. It's just, yeah, it kind of freaked me out. I don't. I'm like Doug when it comes to like airports. I'll do the math, and if I think it's going to be like, if I'm like, well, if I get a taxi or a bus out there, and then I might not, I'll barely make the airplane and all this. So I'd rather go the night before the buses and stop running, and sleep at the airport just to catch my plane, at 5 in the morning the next day. It's like, so I'm always at every place like super early when I don't need to be, and I can't you know. So having something come in that close, like, oh crap, only got 3 minutes, that freaks the hell out of me. Um, uh, so Doug's over in KL. Uh, Expat Pete, hello brother, how you doing this morning? I'm not sure if it's morning. Where are you from again? You're from United States, right? No, I don't know. Tell me down in the comments. Uh, Planet Doug, we are well into the inter monsoon season, and it will be raining almost every day. Hope you won't be badly affected when you start your cycling south. I'm starting to think that the monsoon season doesn't exist. It's just a practical joke that all the Malaysians do on the foreigners. So they just tell them 6 months for 6 months. Just, oh, monsoons are here. Monsoons are coming. But the monsoons don't really exist in this part of the country. It's just one big old white way to get rid, get back at the foreigners for all the. I'm assuming that. I'm starting to think that because I've been warned for the last 6 months that monsoons are coming. So I'll believe it when I see it there, Flea. uh, but yeah, this was actually a nice spot. So what went into my judgment on the travels is there's so many things on so many signs that say beware of the elephants and stuff like this, but then you also have a lot of rescue workers working back and forth, and when you're going along the bushes, you can see where a big creature went off into the bush, maybe not an elephant but something big, and a few of them you're like, no, that's definitely an elephant that went through there because everything's just trampled over. Then you see the metal barriers on the side. They're just crunched up everywhere. I mean, they're just like I'm not sure if the elephants are doing some of it. Like when they're crossing, they're like, nah, we don't want you here, right? Because elephants will crush down a barrier if they don't like it. They'll push over a tree. They'll crush down one of those. So I don't know if that's just all from bad truck driving. So you got trucks, no shoulder, elephants and tigers, and just to set in the reality of rescue workers going up and down on their motorcycles. Same guy that stopped Usfin from Morocco on Let's Go Cycling. He started going, yeah, I was just talking to a guy telling the same thing, that you need to go not camp here. You need to go back to the mosque, stay the night there. Because I think Usfin was actually going to camp, and he's like, no, go back to that's how Usfin ended up at the mosque sleeping that night. And I was like, he's like, yeah, he's from Morocco. I'm like, hey, wait a second. So I pulled him up on YouTube. I said, are you this guy? He goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, I met someone famous. So I got him on video. He was super nice, man. He's the only one that stopped, took the time, because I've seen several of them, but he's the one that actually stopped to pull over. They carry around a chainsaw, everything, because of the trees that fall over, and there's landslides. So you see where the landslides are, you see where the trees fall over because the wet soil. Elephants, tigers. So although I haven't ran into any of this is all going on in my head, right? And you see the tracks, and you see where basically a car took out one of the side, metal rails constantly, no shoulder. And so you're adding that stress element on top of just a nonstop 20 kilometers straight up, And then the next day was 20 kilometers straight up with no water now. And yeah, no water. And after sleeping in a haunted spot with blood stains on the carpet, on the pillows, and, I'm like, am I next? So anyway, guys, I'm rambling. So when I hit that one spot that wasn't shut down, on top of the hill, that was like heaven, man. The view was good. Uh, the view was perfect. The weather was perfect. The food prices were so good. I mean, 4 ringgit for it was 4 ringgit for just normal nasi lemak, 8 ringgit for that extra big old piece of chicken it came with. It was just ridiculously good food too. I mean, nice portion of it. I got 2 of them. And then just the store was, so that was just coming up to that was like heaven, because then it was like more or less downhill with a few uphills connected to it. But so that was the big part. So when I got here, I'm still thinking that whole tiger and lions and oh my type thing, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, or something like that. But I figured the safest spot would be on an island, and this is like, because it's a closed circuit, so Is there any dangerous things that might be on the islands already been relocated, or I don't know, or shot? I don't know how they do it here. So I figure, yeah, and there's probably no elephants, no tigers on this because it's not like a huge island. It's just a small little island. Okay, let's see. Let me catch back up. Expat. Okay, you're from Australia. Okay, thank you, brother. I've been living in KL for 18 years. Wow, you've been in KL from Australia. Well, I guess that's 18 years is you're basically a local now. I mean, yeah, you'd be I don't know how many years you have to be a local, but um, Daily Thrive. What's up, my brother? My bike's crap, just straight out crap. So, AZ, how you doing? Good morning. Meet any elephants? Nope, I lucked out. Um, yeah, no scary Republicans jumped out of the bush at me. Let's see. I'm kind of going backwards here. When the northeast monsoon, it's no joke. Flooding will take place in the east coast, and people usually have to be evacuated. So, something about the monsoons, Flea. I don't know how bad they are here, but I've been around. I lived in a place that got monsoons every year. Arizona, believe it or not, gets the monsoons every year. We've learned in Arizona. So what happened is it hits Arizona and it never quite gets up to Nevada. So Arizona knows where its floodplains are. It knows where anytime there's a rain up on the mountain, you know flash flooding is going to happen, right? So you know where the flash flooding and the basically when the water is pouring out, where not to build your house, right? But they didn't understand that up in Nevada because they called it the century storm because there's only 1% chance the monsoons reach there. Well, it reached there, and it showed that Nevada had no clue where the waterways were at, and it just took out trailer parks and everything, caused so much destruction where you don't see that normally inside Arizona. But sometimes the rain gets so heavy and so hard that it causes damage regardless. You know what I'm saying? Arizona also has what's called a cliche level. It's like is only down 3 inches, and that's all the minerals and stuff that basically cause like um, a cement like layer 3 inches under the soil, and water can't absorb through that very well. So it causes so when it rains, it just everything turns to an ocean. So compared to how the Arizona ones are, I don't know. So probably a lot worse. I'm assuming just because of jungle, you probably have a lot more destructive monsoons, like trees falling and stuff like that. Where the Arizona, basically, you just had to worry about the rushing water taking you out, and it does. Flash flooding kills a lot of people. Um, Video quality. So yeah, I'm gonna deal with the. I'm assuming when the monsoons hit here, it doesn't matter where I'm at, Indonesia or anywhere, I'm gonna get hit with it. So I'll probably be doing a lot more indoor, um, yeah, like trying to avoid it. But there's only so much indoor because usually a season's only about 3 months, But if it's like constant every single day, um, yeah, it's that's terrible to work with because I think like I remember in Hawaii, Kihei is on the wrong side of the island. This is stories that they told me, right? So on the Hana side, the road to Hana, it's all jungle because it rains all the time over there. But right across right across the mountain there, on the other side of the island, it never rains, like ever. But then one time there was a freak, rain that just it decided to rain nonstop every single day for a month. And what happens is if it does like every single day just raining, it makes life miserable because you don't have a chance to dry out. So the trick is usually, especially with the homeless people, you load your pockets up with quarters and stuff, and you start hitting the laundry mat a lot, and they don't like that because you're not washing your clothes every time. You're just taking your clothes off, throwing them in. So have a spare pair of dry clothes. But the fact is you end up drying your clothes all the time, and if there's no break in the weather, you're just going to get wet again. So yeah, it's going to be one of those deals as I don't really. I've always been indoors when I had to deal with the monsoon. So camping wise, I don't know. Because it's hard to move. If you start to move, you put yourself in danger because uh, depending if it's cold or not. If it's warm, it still sucks because you can't start a fire because all the wood's wet, right? Um, and all your clothes get wet, right? All your gear gets wet, and there's only one solution to drying out your clothes and your gear. You got to get out of the rain, but if you can't get out of the rain, so yeah, I'm gonna have to start thinking about sheltering probably. So find a location um, that has good accommodation prices. And Malaysia's not super good on that one, but I mean, they're not super expensive, but it's way harder because even if they're at $5 for a foreigner, the price doubles pretty well after the taxes and stuff, after foreigner tax and all this. But anyway, good. Hey, Daily Thrive, thank you for the super thanks, brother. Um, I always try and give these a heart, but it doesn't let me do it. I try to do a thumbs up. Give them a thumbs up and a heart, guys. Um, I don't know if that makes them a superstar to YouTube or something, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate the New Zealand dollars, $2 New Zealand. I'm gonna eventually get over to. Are you Daily Thrive? Are you currently in New Zealand, or are you somewhere else? Like expat Pete's been in KL for 15 years, is what you just said, or let's see, 18 years. Uh, so yeah, my bicycle is really bad, but by 10 p.m. Morning, brother. Sumatra is okay because it is only affected by the southwest monsoons, just the ended, which just ended. Oh, okay. So that's funny because Sumatra would be so. Oh, they're on the other side of the island. Okay. Or okay. I don't exactly know how. So it's funny that Sumatra would be different than you guys. You put up the rain. Yeah, I put up the rain flag last night. I actually was able to get the big. So Widowmaker. That was just. That was not. That came off. I almost had one. This tree right here tried to take me out the other day. I gave it a hard shake to see if it would actually support the weight of my hammock without uprooting. Here, let's see if I can show you it. Because it's not like the biggest one, and it's got a lean to it, and I wanted to make sure that it actually didn't want to uproot because sometimes because you can see the trees around here. That one's okay. Um, so let me show you guys my surroundings before I yap on. All right, let's go for a walk here. So I had the big rain fly up, and what I did was I offset it very heavy to one side because I didn't want to hit these two trees with the rain fly because they're really close. There's a little bit of a hill here, and I threw that log behind and I tied off my rain fly to it. But if the rain would have been too heavy, it would have just came off the rain fly, hit the hill here, and drained back on me. The only way to do that is I could have gotten my poop shovel out and trenched out along this way just to divert any type of rain over to the side. But it didn't rain that hard. So this is like a little trail Not gonna. There's some game cams, trail cams along the way. So like you see these guys everywhere. So when you're coming in, going out, and all along the trail they have it. But so I don't care if they take a quick picture. They did a very excellent job here on. It might tell me if it starts like breaking up a little. No snakes that I ran into, Cypress. But there's these signs here warning of black scorpions, and I don't know how poisonous the black scorpions are. So the sign really didn't say. So the trail's right here, and it goes up to the viewpoint. And I filmed, after I get off here, I'll throw up the video for public. You are an adventurer. But yeah, it goes up this way to the viewpoint, which isn't a hard hike at all. And they have signs all along the way telling you about the botany, kind of like these right here, telling you about trees, plant life. So, I mean, they spent a little bit of time, you know. Like this tells you about the plants and the stuff that actually might be derived from it, like polo cologne, the beads that are made for prayer beads. Yeah, off the bark and stuff like this. So, I mean, it's actually a cool little spot. I'm assuming that was either a bathroom at one time, a work shed, or a pagoda. But, well, that's a water tank. You know what? It might have been a work shed with a water tank. See, there's the water tank. And the water, looks like the road here just kind of eroded away. And I'm assuming they were growing, cultivating down in this valley down here. And that's what the sign's for. So anyway, this is very, very jungly. So I'm assuming they actually were cultivating down here. Because you can see the little rope goes down and off. Anyway, yeah, this was the best location because being on the island and stuff, but the fact is with the Hennessy hammock, it's still, like I said, you have to find the perfect spacing and spacing of the trees more or less. I mean, it can give a little bit, right? But too far apart, you sag all the way to the ground, and too close together, you can't get up the rain fly. But one of the main things is trying to find enough clearing between the trees that you're not stomping through snake territory and stuff. Oops, hang on. So you don't have to look at my ugly face, you kind of see what the surroundings are. So like, you know, you don't want to go stomping off in there if there's going to be centipedes and snakes and all that stuff, just to try and put up a hammock. And if you drop anything out of your bag or your pocket and you're in a spot that has a lot of overgrowth, yeah, good luck ever finding it. So a little bit of exploring actually helped out. Let me jump on the comments here. So it only sprinkled last night. Okay, with some pixelization and with some lagging. Thank you, Flea. Let's see. When do I catch the ferry to Indonesia? I'm gonna have to do my homework on that one. So I'm gonna stay the maximum amount of time, obviously, here in Malaysia. Just because, yeah, I might be traveling, but like I said in the past, I'm living abroad. I'm doing this for financial reasons because regardless, I'm going to either be homeless in my own country or I'm going to be a homeless vagabond in the world. And so I'm just applying what I would be in my home country to the rest of the world. And the quality of life uh, greatly increases once you leave. Um, I'm not saying America's bad, and America's you got a great country, and if you don't like one little area, you leave and go to another one. The rules change within the country itself. Um, I mean, there's some laws that you just are notorious across the board that you can't do. There's some federal laws, but the federal laws leave more or less the the dictation of what laws are and aren't to the state. So like you end up with stuff like prostitution is legal in Nevada, but none of the other states. Marijuana might be legal in this state, but not that state. Now it's pretty well all states are legal now because, but by federal law, it's still illegal. So the federal usually leaves, but the federal can actually step in anytime and exert their authority, but they usually don't. Um, you saw that with the COVID. The president at the time was Trump. President Trump more or less left it up to the states in turn to make the decision on what to do. In turn, the states left it up to the businesses how they wanted to handle masks on, masks off, all this stuff, vaccination. So you ended up because it was left up to the state, which the state was very liberal in Tennessee and Florida, especially Florida, but Tennessee. So I actually was in a good spot um, because some spots suffered really bad. And yeah, I don't know how Las Vegas survived that. Honestly, I just don't know how Las Vegas survived um, because they tried to stay, on lockdown as long as possible, but eventually it's like you can't do that with casinos. Hmm. But I know it affected the whole world, and I think the whole world, it was a grand experiment to see how the world would handle it, individually, as a group, all this, I'm not saying it wasn't real. I'm just saying it was over exaggerated. At least, it was over exaggerated to the point where we couldn't trust our media anymore because you had the left saying one thing and you had the right saying the complete opposite. And you're like, who am I supposed to believe? And then you have the government saying, stick this in your body. And you're like, is it proven? No, that's so. I know a lot of people were just the fact that it was like too much was going on. They just didn't want to get vaccinated because it was just not, it was not tested. There was no trial era, and you didn't trust the source that it was coming from because you didn't even know the source it was coming from because you had this side saying this like, oh, it's just a flu, and this side saying millions of people are dying, and then you as a witness going, where are the millions of people dying? But at the same time, people are getting sick, and it's not like they weren't dying. It was just it wasn't to that point, and so it was very scary, and that's why I went back to work because everybody, I was like, beans and rice, stack it to the rafters, stockpile, and I'm living in a tent going, I don't have rafters, and if I start growing something out here, a helicopter is going to go above and say, hey, he's growing something down there on that undeveloped commercial property, right? Living in a tent, we'll go explore. So I couldn't do that either, right? So I just went back to work and started stacking my bank account, and with the goal of trying to buy a small piece of property just in case this ever happened again, that I would have rafters. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I ended up working for 3 years and stuff like this. I had a goal to buy a piece of property, just even if it was like a 1 acre, 2 acres, put a tough shed, a little small tough shed on it, make my own outhouse, put a solar panels on it with some battery banks, and do that and just, be off grid, but fully self-sufficient. That way, if it ever came down, yeah, I'd still have to pay property taxes, but, um, I'd find a spot that the property taxes are extremely low because they do in the United States, they fluctuate. And you also have to be careful what the rules are. Like in Tennessee, the area I was in, you can't camp on your own property, you know, for more than a week. That's to actually say the so people just don't buy a piece of property and put out tents and never build a house. They want you to build a house, so they put you can't you can't camp on your own property for more than a week, right? And the thing is well, who's to say what camping is? If I put a small tough shed on there and I'm fully off grid, they can still come in and go, well, it's not hooked up to, you know, the city power and the city sewage and all this, so you know that's still considered camping, you know. So you got to be careful of the laws. It's a pain in the ass in the United States. Anyway, um, just stop blabbing here and catch up. I lived in Honolulu before settling in Auckland, New Zealand. Uh, nice. So Daily Thrive, Honolulu. Okay, so I escaped to Hawaii because the winters were really bad. I think I went over the story so just before. So and there's two options as a homeless person, like a vagabond traveler, hobo. Is you can either snowbird. Snowbirding is going up north when during the summers where it's nice, right? And then going down south during the winters where it's nice, you know. And even retirees do this. They have one piece of property down in Arizona and one piece of property up in Washington State, and they just go back and forth. That's why when you're in Arizona, you see a lot of Washington State plates. Um, but as a homeless person, you do the same thing, right? And so, because your alternative is to actually winterize your camp and hunker down for the 4 months of just winter, because you know it's 3 months, but then there's the buildup on either side. And yeah, and if you want to survive it, you're going to have to do some prep work, um, you know, so to your living establishment. And so I remember one guy in Colfax. He says if it ever gets too bad, best thing to do is just buy a ticket to Hawaii. You know, because if you do it online and use an app, it's only like $109 or something. He says, I just take a one way there and then come back whenever you get up enough money to get, you know. So that's what I did. And but they like, which island do you want to go to? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it, right? You know, I just trying to get out of this winter, and because it was just a bad winter that year, and it made snowbirding impossible. So they sent me to Oahu. And that's Honolulu Island. That's the city island, and it sucked. I got all my gears jacked from me within the first year. I got, you know, I was drunk and passed out in one of the parks, and a bunch of people came by and grabbed, well, two people at least, grabbed my gear and just started running. I started chasing them. I'm like, wait a second, what are you drunk ass gonna do when you catch up to them? You know, you know, you're drunk still, and they're just gonna whoop you up real hard, you know, and still have your gear. So I stopped my pursuit, and everything was gone within a week. But the thing is, Hawaii was way different. You know, I got there with all my Carhartt overalls on, my work boots, and looking like I just rolled off a train. And for the longest time, I'm like, I don't do shorts. I don't do tank tops. I don't do flip-flops. But eventually, you're in Hawaii long enough, you're going to do shorts. You're going to do tank top, and you are going to do flip-flops. That was the healthiest my feet ever got, honestly. So I ended up in Maui after that, just because I met some home bums from Maui, some beach bums, and they said come back over, and we stay on the beaches of Kihei, and we'll introduce you to everyone over there. So that's how I ended up in Kihei, which is a pretty awesome. That's on Maui, for the ones that don't know. Um, he is heading to Allure. Yeah, I'm going to Allure Sitar. Thank you, Flea, for answering that for me. Going to be visiting with Ali up there. And yeah, I don't know how long I'll be in Allure Sitar. So that's one of those things I hold the right to make up my decision after I get up there, how much longer I want to be up there. But my plan is to actually take the ferry over. I'm trying to avoid airplanes at all costs, just because they're boring. You know, honestly, they are. Uh, hopefully you can look into getting the 60-day visa for Indonesia. Yes, Doug, if you run across any of that information, post it in the Telegram. I'll look it up too. But if you know which links to uh, look into that, the 60-day, I know that's fairly new without a sponsor. I mean, so okay, yeah, I'll try and look it up. But if you know the direct link to the to where I can get my 60-day visa, it would be cool because 30 days isn't long enough in Indonesia. Our casualties were not as high as the U.S. because we followed the Ministry of Health instructions. Well, Flea, I think your casualties were not as high as the U.S. because we weren't fully truthful on our news either. Um, we were recording. Um, we weren't honestly recording. I don't think we were honestly recording. I don't know if I should even be. I don't know if YouTube's still sensitive to that. But there was a lot of, let's say there was a lot of reports that there was false reporting, like a person would die of gunshot, and they put it down. Oh well, if as long as he had the COVID, if his blood tested positive for COVID, it was put down as a, uh, as a, if it, excuse me, if his blood tested positive for the coronavirus, which all flus are the coronavirus. COVID-19 are the symptoms. Um, but Uh, but that's then again, they're so mixed up. It's like that's coming from more of a right-based, news or information source where it's that's. So I do believe there was a lot of hanky-panky going on in the reporting of the numbers and stuff like that. So, uh, yeah, our death casualties didn't seem that high at all. Not from my personal perspective, from what it was saying that was going on to what was actually going on. It was like, yeah, no, our hospitals were not really packed out. All these centers that opened up, no one was really using them. I don't know. It just, I didn't. It what it was saying was going on, and what you're experiencing with your own eyes was just like, no, that's not the truth. So I'm not saying it wasn't real because I do know, not personally know, but I know of people that died from it. Like, oh well, and usually it was because of the ventilator they were on, and I don't know. So anyway, but you can see the mental effect that it had on people. Like it really mentally damaged a lot of people. Almost like victims of rape or something. They're still walking around with a mask on and stuff like this, and you're like, you don't need to do that anymore. Some cultures always did it, like um, I know that's probably still a sore subject, but it was kind of the mentality of we never really fully recovered from that because there was also a big divide within, at least in the United States. That's where our division really started happening. And then you have stuff like the algorithm, right? The algorithm of YouTube, when you can't trust the news sources anymore, like MSNBC and CNN versus Fox, because they're like saying the exact same thing but pointing the finger in the other direction. And so you go to places like YouTube, but then YouTube has this algorithm that puts you in an echo chamber. So what that does is it takes your opinions that you have, even if they're falsified opinions, right, with faulty information, and sinks you farther and farther and farther into that echo chamber. So you have the algorithm breaking us off into two, echo chambers, and you see that with you see that with what's going on right now with the political, um, more or less political, the people that are getting shot, um, Charlie Kirk or whatever. It's the thing is these are. It really is like the left sees the right as the bad people, and the right sees the left as the bad people. And if you stop and watch, like I go back over to MSNBC, watch them, I'm like, they're lunatics. And then you watch right, and you're like, it's like these are like two different things. Well, MSNBC is not a good one. The CNN's better, but still, they're just they just are they're terrible, man. It's just and it's causing such a division that it's driving us towards a almost like a civil war. But that's the new face of war, I guess. It's like, get into, don't don't fight the war directly. Get the people to fight the war for you. I don't know. We suffered a lot, and we still are suffering because of the divide that it caused within our country. So the best thing to do is probably the worst thing to do is to shut it off. Shut off. Just stop paying attention to our government and just hope it does good. You know what I'm saying? Just follow the rules and ignore our government, because basically all they're trying to do is drive us into a civil war. Just say, no, we're not going to play your game. We're done with you. And then try and get out of the algorithm of YouTube. Try and see both sides if you do, but the best thing to do is to shut it off altogether. Otherwise, we're not going to survive this. Honestly, we're not. If we keep putting ourselves farther and farther into our own echo chambers, we're never going to see the other side. It's just, we're never going to ever see the other side of the view. The best thing to do is get two channels, right? And put one far left, one far right, and just watch both of them. Then you'll realize, yeah, it's not. They're not worth your time. Honestly, don't even do that. It's not worth your time. But anyway, Ben. So the guy named Ben. I'm gonna be heading there, guys. I'm sorry I started blabbing about that. But remember, for the whole time I'm living in a tent, right? I'm scared along with the rest of the world. It's just I didn't like seeing what I was seeing going on. I really didn't. But I don't think any of us did. I think we all thought it was weird. But instead of coming closer together as a people, the agendas were separated us even farther, because some of us wanted to get vaccinated and some of us didn't. And they go, well, we'll make this thing, vaccinations versus non-vaccination, the hill that everybody's going to die on, because it's not the hill I'm going to die on, it's the hill that I'm going to have them kill each other on. So yeah, I just civil unrest is just going to get crazy if we don't start getting a government that actually cares about the people. um, I plan to, I see the 60-day option on the website. Also, we just need to fill in a unified online arrival card now. No need for a separate customs declaration. Is that just for the Malaysians, or is that for all tourists going in? Finding Crampton on the side of the road? No, no, that's a different country. So Cyprus, no kratom on the side of the road, because it's not legal here. I'm almost. It's Malaysia is Malaysia's illegal on almost all substances. That's fine. I don't. Mm. Sorry, guys. Breakfast. Um, Ben gave me some food before he left. They banned homelessness in Waikiki. Um, how? Daily Thrive. How did they? Because if you ban something, you need an alternative. So, yeah, homelessness has never been legal. It's just never been legal. It's just they can't out and out illegalize, make it illegal. I mean, they can try, um, but they have to offer a shelter system. Uh, but then again, it's like there are people that prefer to live not in, like, okay, when you go to a homeless shelter. Now, each one's different. There's tricks. You would probably prefer to go to a dry shelter because they're cleaner, less problems, and because they regulate the people coming in. The dry shelter means that they breathalyze you when you come in, and if you have alcohol in your breath, then you don't get in, right? Um, that means they care about the people on the inside. If it's a wet shelter, they usually just, as long as you're not doing drugs inside the homeless shelter, that means they don't really care about the people inside your shelter. So it's better to be inside, I'd say, like a dry shelter. Honestly, it's just I noticed the quality of the place goes up. They seem more focused on, hey, we can get you to work and stuff like this. Um, but regardless, they usually need to have an alternative like that. Like but the fact is there's never enough beds at the homeless shelters, and there's also the alternative is people like me. I don't do homeless shelters because I'm not that type of a homeless person. I'll do it as a last minute resort, um, or if there's a legal requirement. Which in Phoenix, I had to stay at that one for a year because of legal requirements. I got caught with a little pot in my pocket, and it was a felony in Arizona. So to get rid of it, I had to do so I had to stay at the homeless shelter so I could do my every day. You had to call up, and if you like, I think I was red, right? You'd hear the colors white, orange, and if you're like red, that means you had to go in and take a pee test. But you had to call every day, and usually your color would only come up once a week, but you had to do it like every single day, and you never knew if it was going to be that day, so you just didn't do any type of drugs or alcohol, um, just because of the possibility. Which it's a color code system, and it works out all right. Um, But how? Yeah, banning Waikiki. It's like how do you do that? Problem in the U.S. I usually check news sources outside my home country to get a bigger perspective, but Americans don't seem to watch international media or do some research on the web. Yeah, well, our news agencies don't report anything outside of the policies of the politicians that they usually work for. So our news agencies are just used as a political tool. So they're just not trustworthy. Um, but then even when you go outside of that, it's like there's BBC's a little bit better, but they're still getting paid by certain groups and stuff. Um, it's yeah, we are definitely in America. We are not. I mean, we don't even learn about other countries anymore. I mean, we had to a little bit when I was growing up, but I don't think they even teach kids anything anymore, um, which is crazy. You go somewhere actually like what surprises me, you go somewhere like Morocco, right? On the average, most people there know like three languages. It's like, well, they know like their form of Arabic, they know French, and they know English, and they pride themselves on the English because once they learn the English better, it's like, and if you're up north, they know Spanish too. But once they learn that, that means their profit margin goes way up because now they can get jobs easier. They can sell stuff to foreigners a lot easier and stuff like this. So, it's funny because I know I went by one Moroccan guy, and he was trying to fake like an English accent. He was like, "Hey, buddy, how are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, don't even do that, dude," because I know it's so fake. Don't I mean just it doesn't matter if you have an accent. Just an accent is who make what it makes you, right. It's best not to have an accent at all, but trying to fake what you think is an American accent is just terrible, man. Because you can always tell that a person's faking that the American accent, and you're like, no, don't do that. Just roll with what you got. Roll with your whatever accent you might have from whatever country you are. We respect that. Um, uh, they public camping, sitting and lying down. I mean, oh yeah, daily thrive. So that's what I mean by that's what I meant by homelessness is illegal everywhere. Is they prohibit public camping, sitting and lying down. Now the sitting and lying down is how do you do that in Hawaii? Is it's people sleep on the beach. Yeah, I mean not sleep on the beach. I slept on the beach, but what I'm saying is people go down to the water and sit on the water. So how are you to distinguish a person sitting or lying down? So what that usually does, okay, so these laws are passed, right? But they're not enforced. But they can be enforced if you're a problem. So it's not against the law until it's against the law. So until someone complains. So technically, it's always illegal. So the thing is if the cops don't get any type of complaints, they let you be. So that's how these encampments build up, right? So it was like the cops will leave you alone over in this section, and sometimes they even send you to that section because they know it's out of sight, out of mind, and that's where if you can keep all the homeless people in one area, it's great, right? So they say, hey, go over there, right? We leave you alone over there. So you go over there, and then eventually someone starts complaining, and more complaints come in because the camp starts getting too big. So there's a tolerance level of the public, right? And the public will usually go, okay, that's cool. But then it's like too many, and when you get too many, you start getting some disgusting people in there, just shitting everywhere. Excuse my language, but like down at the Elk River in the in Fortuna. Okay, down in Fortuna, it's illegal to camp. It's illegal to camp inside city limits, but the river runs through the city, and technically they can't stop you from camping on the river because people night fish and stuff like this. So it's legal to night fish. If it's legal to night fish, it's legal to basically camp, right? So everybody just camped on the river. But then so I met the group of people that were back there that were making their houses and stuff out of driftwood and just these beautiful big old houses, right? Like, I mean, they're collecting the driftwood and and it was the way they weaved all the wood and stuff together to make fences and stuff. It reminded you something out of like a fairy tale and stuff. I'm like, wow. And one guy actually dug down into the sand and made it like a little bed area and a spot to do drawings and stuff, and it was like an underground bunker, and they put and they did really good, and I got introduced to that group. But to get to that group, you had to go down the entrance trail, which you first had to go past all the drug addicts, right? They're like right by the door, and which was like having pit bull a mean pit bull at your front gate, because no one else is going down there because they're going to see the pit bull and like, I ain't going down there. But the fact is once they know, okay, no, he's cool, he can come in, right? Um, and so I just walked by him, but they were the type that just was crapping everywhere, and go like if you try to walk down the river past their area, you just see the toilet paper and everything right on the river rocks. You know what I'm saying? And it was just so disgusting. So a person starts seeing that, then the complaints come in, and that's when they don't even mess around. The cops just come in with a bulldozer and just hit everything. I know people that had their camps in Auburn, California. It was like, got so big that it was like, okay, it's time to shut this down. They brought in the bulldozers, and one of the guys was like, hey, I have pictures of my family and stuff like this that are no longer with me and stuff like that. He's like, in my tent, can I go grab those? And I said, you go in, you're going to get bulldozed over, right? He's like, no, you can't go in. So yeah, they just lose everything because they're supposed to give you a warning though. Most spots will give you a warning. So um, like I just ran into Tennessee. Last spot made it a felony to be homeless, right, in a public area, but they had to give you 2 week notice, right? So they had to deliver a 2 week notice that you had to move on. So that's good. That means, yeah, it's a felony, but that's only if you ignore their get out. So, um, so a lot of people come up to me and say, "Hey, aren't you upset about the making it a felony now?" That and they're like, "No, they give you a 2 week notice to move. That's basically it. And if you don't listen to them, that's when you go to jail." So yeah, they put a strong enforcement behind it, but with that strong enforcement, they can't enforce it at all now. So what it does is it stops just arresting you for being homeless, right? Which they can't get you for that, so they hit you for something else, like a drunk in public. I got arrested a lot of times for drunk in public, and Arcata. They're like, hey, let's pick them up because they try and give you the hint after a while to get the hell out of their town, right? So like I said, there's a 1 week buffer zone, but if you don't move within that 1 week, sometimes the cop will either do two things. He'll either stop you right off the bat, let you know that he's seen you, right? Talk to you, get you basically your name. Sometimes he'll try and run your ID. There's two ways to handle that. You can either try and be polite to them, or just ask them if they have if they're detaining you for anything, and if they say no, then say, well, then I'm free to leave, and just that's the better way to do it. Just Columbus, a guy that I was traveling with for a while, his name was Columbus because he was always going in the wrong way, wrong direction. Um, he just straight up just didn't talk to cops. He says, I don't talk to cops. And they're like, well, why not? You know, of course. He's like, I don't talk to cops. If you're not detaining me, can I go? You know, and he just straight up didn't like, because cops, when they talk to you, they're only looking for a reason to arrest you. You know, and that's honest. It is. It's bad to talk to cops because that one reason. The only reason they're talking to you is to figure out if they can, arrest you for something. So the best thing to do is just don't give them any information at all. So anyway, that's I don't know. So why I was going down that rabbit hole, but okay, let's see. Um, they prohibit public. Yeah, no, that's already did that. I am going to do my American accent when you see me. Yeah, practice. Okay, Ollie, practice your American accent. Try and do a Valley Girl. If you don't know what Valley Girl is, look that up. You got to say for sure and gag me with a spoon and all that stuff. Yeah, look up Valley Girl and how to do a Valley Girl accent. Bring that back in. That was back in the '80s or something, '80s and '90s or something. I think it was Zappa's daughter that started that. Um, have you had any paranormal things while you were in Malaysia, especially in the places you overnight and stay outside? Have I had any paranormal experiences? Um, no, no, I haven't. But that's why I have earplugs. Uh, and it's not that I don't believe in paranoia, paranormal activities and stuff like that. It's just I just haven't had any. It is really because a lot of times it's just sounds that you can't recognize, and your brain might go crazy about it. But sometimes it's legit. You know, I mean, sometimes it's legit paranormal stuff. But no, you know, I was a little on the spook side, saying. Now I know a lot of people who say, "Well, it's like that stuff's not real." Well, okay. I beg to differ because I have had plenty of paranormal experiences in the past. I just, and yeah, you can think, well, it's just your brain, and it's your this or that, whatever. But um, no, I have stuff that I list as paranormal. Actually, I have a very long stretch of it, but um, that's not one of those subjects that I I talk to about because I think there's two different types of paranoia, paranormal experiences. I think they're all kind of linked together, but there's just the stuff that you see out like camping like this, and that can be activated by an overactive imagination, right? So it's just like something that you see, but sometimes it's very, very strong. There's something called matrixing. So it's like when you're looking out a window and the raindrops are going down the panel, the window panel, and you look out and you see a face. It's because your brain is actually programmed to see faces and stuff like clouds and stuff like that. You see animals and different things like this. You're programmed that way. So what happens is raindrops sometimes pull up something that looks like two eyes and a nose, and your brain goes face, right? And so you can have your brain matrixing, and when your brain matrixes, sometimes it'll take stuff and turn it into something it's not. So that's probably the reason a lot of stuff happens in the dark is because it's harder to see and stuff. But then there's the paranormal stuff that happens for an extended period of time, like something's latched on to you, right? Something is latched on and is taking notice of you and wants to follow you around and bother you for a reason. That's not so easily shunned off as just something like this because it's happened to you maybe multiple days, and that's where you might get like a haunting in a house or something like that. where a person's living in. It's like, first time you can blow it off, but after routinely over and over and over again, or something that just follows you around, you know, because it doesn't have to be just locked into one area. You can have a weird entity following you around and taking notice of you. It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be. It could be malevolent, you know. It could also be something, but it could be obviously, trying to let you know that it's around you too. But so those are not so easily to blow off, and I have actually had those experiences. So where it's like, okay, this has been going on way too long, and yeah, and so I don't. Some of the like, oh, I saw a Bigfoot. I can put those off as, well, maybe you didn't, maybe you did, because there's also the lying factor. Just people lie, and that's just how it is. Because um, I come from where reading a lot of conspiracy books in the past, and I know people lie and say they're telling the truth. It's just because I don't know. It's like they're lonely or something. So anyway, guys, this has been going on way too long. Pareidolia, Parad, Pareidolia. They call it pareidolia. That's called pareidolia. What do you mean, the extended time? Never talk to police under any circumstances. A good video. Have you ever heard? Yeah, no. Uh, yeah, never talk to police under any circumstances. It's definitely is, because as a homeless traveler, you don't want to upset them either. Sometimes they'll, I've known police that want to inform you, right? And I don't mind the informers, right? They come up to you and say, hey, just so you know, we have a soup kitchen over here and we have a shelter over that way. You're not supposed to camp in city limits, but if you go just outside the river down here, you can camp there. They're not trying to glean any information from you. They just want to make sure that 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 they're here there to help you, right? I think those officers are cool. They're awesome. I've ran into them before, and those people you are usually safe to open up to. You know what I'm saying? But when they pull over and they say, "Hey, new to the place," something like that, just checking on you to make sure you're doing okay. That's probably not, because because that's usually followed up. So, you got ID, or and it's like, why? You don't need to check my ID. And the thing is, I have a clean record. I mean, I have a clean record now. I had to sleep off a lot of my record. I mean, I had a lot of bench warrants that built up from just being drunk in public or whatever, and I just driving without insurance, all these things, and I just slept it off. They're like, you owe $2,000. I'm like, how long in jail? 1 week. And okay, I'll do 1 week instead of paying, the $2,000. So so it's funny. Every spot I went back to, they kept arresting me because I did have a bench warrant. So I had a bunch of bench warrants, and it was just by luck or by circumstances. I would just kept going right back to the place and getting pulled over by a cop. And he goes, "Hey, you got a bench warrant?" I'm like, "Okay, how long in jail?" 4 days to get rid of it, right? And whatever. The bench, usually the judge, when he knew I wanted to sleep it off, because that's what we call it. He's like, well, you owe $700 on this bench warrant. Like, how much to sleep it off? Well, the minimum I can give you, they always try and give you the minimum. The base minimum is like 3 days. And they're like, okay, I'll do the 3 days. You got a hot in a cot for 3 days. So I just went from place to place to place by circumstance and by luck, and slept it off, slept it off, slept it off. And when I got out the other end of it, I didn't have any records. I just basically was like, all right, clean record. Woohoo. I never really did anything bad to begin with. It was just, I kept getting, I'm a hobo. And by definition, I'm doing something, my full existence is illegal. So, uh, have a good day going downhill to Garrick. Yeah, I better hop on my bicycle. Hope your bicycle survives the journey. Ride safe. New bike is made in China for 1 year use. Get a secondhand one. Yeah, well, that was secondhand too. That one was a secondhand one. It wasn't put together too well. It was a secondhand part with a bunch of new parts on it, and it just wasn't put together real well. Or the parts weren't the parts were China parts. I just wants a cheap bike, something that he can ride for a few months. Japan, ball bearings can use for 10 years. China made, yeah, and China's just bad parts anyway. Next mantra, safe cycling. All right, guys, enjoy. It's 1 hour. I'm going to say peace out. And thanks for joining me this morning. I got to get going. I got 10 kilometers of uphill. All right, bye.